Hello there, this is World News Program coming to you live on All 24 News from the capital, Algiers. I'm your host, Kinfa Zachary, and up next are the top stories. Algeria reaffirms its unwavering backing for Lebanon as Foreign Minister Attaf delivers a message from President Tebboune to Michel Aoun. From institutional rebuilding to diplomatic defense of the UN, Algiers stands firm with Beirut. Also in our news, Zionist forces ramp up attacks on Tulkarm as resistance celebrates a strategic victory in Netzarim Axis. Meanwhile, Arab leaders gear up for a crucial summit on Palestine, set for late February. Coming up as well, despite ongoing tensions, former French Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Dominique de Villepin sees signs of progress and remains optimistic about the future of Algeria-France relations. And later on, tensions continue to run high in the DRC. As unrest grips South Kivu, the governor steps in, urging calm and stability. This and more shortly. Hello again and welcome back to the program. First off in our news, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf has personally delivered a written message from President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to Lebanese President Joseph Aoun. The meeting took place Saturday in Beirut, where Attaf, acting as President Tebboune's special envoy, conveyed the Algerian leader's warm regards and renewed congratulations on Aoun's recent election. According to the Lebanese presidency, the letter extended an official invitation from President Aoun to visit Algeria, underscoring both nations' commitment to strengthening bilateral ties. In a statement on its official Facebook page, the Lebanese presidency emphasized that this diplomatic step reflects a shared desire to elevate relations between the two countries.
In my capacity as the special envoy of the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, I delivered a handwritten letter to the Lebanese President. This mission is part of Algeria's consistent position towards Lebanon, in both good times and bad times. Once again, on behalf of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, I congratulated His Excellency, President Michel Aoun, on his election and the finalization of the procedures for forming the Lebanese government. I wished him every success on behalf of Algeria.
On the same note, speaking from Beirut, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf, in his capacity as President Tebboune's special envoy, reaffirmed Algeria's steadfast support for Lebanon's nation-building efforts and its pursuit of peace, security, and economic development. On behalf of President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, Attaf extended heartfelt congratulations to Lebanese President Joseph Aoun on the formation of the new Lebanese government, emphasizing Algeria's unwavering solidarity with Lebanon as it ushers in a new era of institutional consolidation and national progress.
Lebanon, as everyone knows, is experiencing a pivotal moment in its history, marked by efforts to strengthen its institutions, revitalize its economy, and establish security. In each of these critical phases, Algeria remains steadfast in its support for Lebanon.
In his meeting with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to defending Lebanon's interests from its position as an Arab member of the UN Security Council. Mr. Attaf also discussed with President Aoun key regional developments with a particular focus on the Palestinian issue. Both sides underscored the importance of ongoing coordination as they prepare for upcoming Arab summits and engagements, reinforcing their shared commitment to regional stability and diplomacy.
مع فخامة الرئيس.
With His Excellency the President, we discussed bilateral relations and we agreed on the need to give them new life by offering them new dynamics and broader content. We also discussed Algeria's membership in the Security Council and its availability to support Lebanon in the Security Council. We have also discussed future Arab events and the need for continuous and systematic close coordination and consultation between Algeria and Lebanon to contribute to the success of these future Arab meetings.
For his part, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun expressed deep appreciation for Algeria's unwavering stance at the UN Security Council, particularly in defending Lebanon amid the recent Zionist aggression. According to a statement from the Lebanese presidency, Aoun reaffirmed his commitment to strengthening Lebanese-Algerian ties across all sectors, acknowledging the steadfast support of President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. For his part, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf emphasized the shared determination to infuse new momentum into bilateral relations with a particular focus on economic cooperation, aiming to elevate ties to their fullest potential.
تطرقنا مع فخامة الرئيس إلى العلاقات الثنائية.
We held discussions on bilateral relations with His Excellency the President and agreed on the necessity of reactivating them, providing renewed momentum and expanding their scope.
مضمون أوسع.
And in the latest developments in Lebanon, the Zionist occupation launched a series of airstrikes and raids from Saturday night into Sunday, targeting several towns and villages in southern Lebanon. According to the Lebanese news agency, occupation forces demolished multiple homes in the border town of Yaroun, located in the Beit Jbeil district, further escalating tensions in the region. And for the 14th straight day, the Zionist occupation has escalated its aggression on Tul Karam and its refugee camp, expanding its siege and military operations to include the North Shams camp east of the city. According to the Palestinian news agency, occupation forces stormed the area, carrying out raids, mass arrests, and relentless assaults, using live ammunition and heavy explosives. The onslaught has caused widespread destruction of infrastructure and forced displacement of residents. And at dawn on Sunday, Zionist forces stormed North Shams camp east of Tul Karam, killing 3 and wounding several. The Palestinian Health Ministry confirmed a pregnant woman and her unborn child perished after troops blocked ambulances, leaving her husband in critical condition. In Al-Madras, a young girl was murdered and her father gravely injured as occupation forces bombed their home. And for the 20th day, Zionist forces intensified their assault on Jenin, murdering 25, wounding and detaining dozens, and displacing thousands, reports the Palestinian news agency. The crisis deepens as troops besiege Jenin Hospital, raising entrances and cutting water, jeopardizing patients and staff. Assistant Governor Mansour Assadi warns of a Zionist plot to erase the refugee cause, urging global bodies to document the atrocities. After over a year of occupation, Zionist forces withdrew from the Nazarene axis on Sunday under the ceasefire agreement, marking a permanent retreat. With the corridor reopened, displaced Palestinians are now returning north to their homes after weeks of forced separation. Let's find out more in this story with Zahra Fajali.
After more than 15 months of occupation and destruction, the Zionist occupation forces have withdrawn from the Netzarim corridor this Sunday as part of implementing the ceasefire agreement. This withdrawal, announced as final, is finally allowing thousands of displaced Palestinians to attempt a return to northern Gaza. This return is filled with pain and uncertainty. The people of northern Gaza are coming back to a landscape they can hardly recognize. Piles of rubble replace homes, and the remains of buildings stand as a testament to the destruction caused by the occupation.
Today I came to the north to see the situation, and thanks to God, the road was clear and the Israeli army has withdrawn. As long as we are back, we are safe, everyone is okay, and we will all return.
The conditions of return are dire. Between dust and ashes, families discover that their homes are nothing but debris, yet their determination to resist and rebuild remains strong.
If God wills it, we will stay. We will marry off our sons and daughters. We will give birth to more children. And we will make the infidels, the Jews, and the Americans free us, if God wills.
Despite months of war, famine, and displacement, the resilience of the Palestinian people remains unshaken. Even after destruction, forced exile, and unbearable loss, they refuse to abandon their land.
We are steadfast and we have endured the rockets and airstrikes. They deprived us of food and water, but they couldn't take the air away from us. They couldn't stop us from breathing. We survived.
The withdrawal is seen by the Palestinian resistance as further proof of failure of Zionist war against Gaza. For people who have endured over 15 months of continuous genocide, the nightmare is far from over. While the occupation forces have retreated, the Palestinian resistance is far from giving up. The fight continues until Palestine is free and independent.
Still with the same file, Zionist forces killed 4 Palestinians, including a woman in Gaza, firing on civilians near the Kuwait roundabout in Al-Karara Khan Yunis, reports the Palestinian Information Center. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry confirmed 8 bodies recovered in 24 hours, 7 from the rebel and 1 from prior injuries, alongside 2 new casualties. The death toll now stands at 48,189, with 111,640 wounded, as many remain trapped beneath the rubble. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry announced that an emergency Arab summit will be held in Cairo on February 27th to discuss the latest escalations in Palestine. According to a statement released on Sunday, the summit was convened at the request of the State of Palestine to address the grave and evolving situation in the region. Moving on now to other topical developments, but this time in Africa, thousands of Moroccans took to the streets on Sunday, decrying the deterioration of social conditions, rise in living costs, and widespread corruption. Protesters, closely monitored by heavy security, chanted slogans demanding accountability for corruption and an end to economic hardship and protection for whistleblowers.
Today we want to say that this march serves as a point of order, a warning bell against the continued corruption, bribery, usury, embezzlement of public funds, and impunity. It is an opportunity to say enough to illicit enrichment. It is an occasion to sound the alarm because corruption has spread and grown stronger, with networks and mafias of corruption expanding, threatening both the state and the society.
Still in Morocco, the Moroccan Employment Union has declared a nationwide strike starting February 18th, followed by protests citing the government's disregard for its demands. In a statement, the union announced its immediate and final withdrawal from dialogue committees, calling them a sham meant to buy time and mislead public opinion. It urged its members to prepare for an open struggle until their demands are met.
Amid the systematic disregard for its legitimate demands and the ministry's blatant neglect of sectoral dialogue issues, the National Employment Union has announced its immediate and permanent withdrawal from the dialogue committees. The union also declared the strike accompanied by 2 protest sit-ins on the 18th of this month, the first in the front of the Ministry of Economic Integration, Small Business, Employment and Skills, and the second in the front of the Ministry of Finance.
And in national development, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has awarded the National Merit Award, the 10th degree, to Minister of Housing Mohamed Tarek Belarbi in recognition of his constructive efforts in the vital housing sector. According to a statement from the Algerian presidency, the ceremony took place at Al Mouradia Palace in Algiers, attended by Prime Minister, top presidential advisors, and members of the Algerian government. To bilateral cooperation, Algeria's Army General Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Saïd Chengriha, visited Bharat Forge Limited and Lawson and Turbo, two leading Indian military industry companies, as part of efforts to enhance defense cooperation. According to a statement from the Algerian Ministry of Defense, Chengriha held talks with his Indian counterpart, focusing on joint manufacturing, technology transfer, and expanding bilateral collaboration in military research, development, and training. Moving on, and as you followed in our headlines, former French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin has acknowledged positive momentum in efforts to ease tensions between Algeria and France. In an interview with our channel, de Villepin expressed his willingness to help bridge differences and facilitate the resumption of dialogue and cooperation between the two nations.
Il faudrait exclure. Nous devons tout faire. En tout cas, en ce qui me concerne, tout ce qui peut être fait à la place qui est la mienne.
We must make every possible effort, and at the very least, this is what I'm committed to in my capacity. I have carefully read President Tebboun's interview and see that there are movements in the right direction. Therefore, we must all work together to emerge from this crisis in a positive way. I do not see myself as a mediator, but based on my meetings with many officials in France, both in political and economic circles, I can say that there is great anticipation and hope for finding solutions. I know that each party is willing to play its role, and we're all ready to work toward overcoming the current disagreements and reopening channels of dialogue and cooperation.
Similarly, former French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin emphasized that recognizing the tragic past is essential for improving relations between Algeria and France. In the same interview with our channel, he expressed optimism that positive developments are on the horizon, paving the way for a new phase of cooperation between the two countries.
Ce qui doit être fait pour faire en sorte que la reconnaissance.
It is essential to refocus attention on acknowledging the tragic history. This must undoubtedly be done. However, what is even more important is to concentrate on what lies ahead and what must be accomplished for our youth and our peoples. This urges us to look to the future and address difficult and painful aspects in a constructive spirit. Goodwill must be the driving force that guides us. Therefore, I sincerely hope that we can make progress soon. I already see movement in this direction, and that is why I want to believe that soon we will be able to move forward together.
And in another topical development, but in Africa still, as the M23 armed group inch closer to Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu, the province's governor has urged calm, trying to reassure the 1 million strong population. Clashes erupted 60 kilometers from the city on Saturday, sparking fear and panic among residents. Meanwhile, African leaders meeting in Tanzania have called on military leaders to enforce an immediate and unconditional ceasefire within 5 days in an attempt to de-escalate the crisis.
I would like to point out to the population of South Kivu and the Congolese population in general, which is contrary to the media campaign of the enemy's digital army, which tries to do everything to infect the population, saying that there is serious insecurity in the Kivu province. There is no such thing, and I would like to reiterate to the population to remain calm and to vacate their occupations.
We remain in Africa still. 70 years ago, the apartheid regime forcibly evicted the residents of Sophiatown, South Africa, as part of its racial segregation policies. Once a vibrant cultural hub, the neighborhood was razed and repopulated under white-only settlement laws. 7 decades later, the displaced families and their descendants are still waiting for compensation and justice. Islam Sid tells us more in this story.
February 9, 1955, a day of reckoning in South African history. 7 years have passed since apartheid authorities descended upon Sophiatown, dismantling a vibrant, multiracial community in the name of segregation. Families were torn from their homes, their streets reduced to rubble, their futures cast into uncertainty. Among them, Sumi Willis still carries the weight of that fateful day.
I just feel happy. What can I do? I feel happy. I said, I'm back in Sophiatown. And I take a walk from there in Toby Street, Dr. Kruma. It's about 4 streets down where I was born. There is a mall there.
Yeah, they build a mall there.
Yeah, in Miller Street.
Yeah.
That's where I was born.
For those uprooted, the loss was not just of a brick and mortar, but of identity and belonging.
The pain of that house in 2 minutes having been flattened, you know. You grew up in that house. If you come around the corner, you know that I'm home. All of a sudden, there's nothing. You know, that pain. You're lost, you're displaced.
The forced removals were sanctioned in 1950 when the Afrikaner National Party seized 85% of South Africa's land, displacing 3.5 million indigenous people. By 1962, Sovietown had been razed and cynically renamed Triumph. It was only in 2006 that justice, in name at least, was restored. Yet the echoes of dispossession endure. Entire generations remain trapped in impoverished townships, their economic exclusion a lingering wound.
When people say, don't worry about history, we've got to deal with this issue now, history is not important, why are you still wanting to have redress? Well, we want redress because the problems that exist now, you know, have historical roots, and we've got to understand and say that people were removed from the land, they were not given compensation, all of those things, okay?
As South Africa revisits this painful chapter, a new debate unfolds. Land reform laws, meant to correct historic wrongs, stir both hope and controversy. But one thing is certain, without true redress, the specter of Sofiatown will never fade.
In Africa still, but this time to economy. Ethiopia is making steady progress in restructuring its sovereign debt under the G20 initiative, though negotiations with creditors remain slow but ongoing. Finance Minister Ahmed Shide stated on Sunday that the country has entered the final stages of discussions, signaling a potential breakthrough in the process. Let's find out more with Yassina Rekti now.
Ethiopia's long struggle with mounting debt may soon see a resolution. As of June last year, the country's external debt stood at a staggering $28.9 billion, nearly half of which is owed to multilateral lenders, including the IMF, World Bank and African Development Bank. In a bid to ease the burden, the IMF approved a $3.4 billion aid package in July.
We are at the final stretch of debt restructuring. And I can say this, it is on the top of my priority list in engagement with the creditors of Ethiopia.
Now optimism is in the air. Speaking at a joint press conference in Addis Ababa alongside IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, Ethiopian Finance Minister Ahmed Shide confirmed that debt restructuring negotiations were in their final phase.
Debt restructuring, support from IMF, support from World Bank is going to continue. We are in the final stage of negotiation in terms of debt restructuring as G20 common framework countries. So we are on final stage of negotiation. That is going to be complete soon. This will also leverage significant support, which is already been part of the overall package.
Ethiopia's economy has faced relentless headwinds from the COVID pandemic to the Ukraine war and the Tigray conflict, each crisis tightening the fiscal noose. Inflation peaked at 33.9% in 2022, later easing to 23.9% last year, with projections aiming for 13.3% by 2026. As Ethiopia inches toward a financial reset, the stakes remain high. Will this restructuring usher in much-needed economic stability, or will the country's debt saga continue? Time will tell.
And we conclude our program with more news stories making headlines around the globe in the News in Brief, this time by Sofian Kanturi.
Russia's defense ministry announced the capture of Orikovo, Vasilivka and Donetsk, advancing toward Chasiv Yar. Russia also claimed its air defenses destroyed a HIMARS launcher and 90 Ukrainian drones, mainly over Kursk. On the other hand, Ukraine's Air Force reported downing 70 of 151 Russian drones overnight. Niger's Transitional Military Council announced a national dialogue from February 15 to 19 in Niamey to determine the duration of the transition period. The Interior Ministry confirmed that the Council leader Abdurrahman Chiani signed a decree on Saturday to establish a national committee overseeing the discussions and drafting a preliminary transition charter. Marking the 77th anniversary of North Korea's Army Foundation Day, Kim Jong-un condemned U.S.-South Korea-Japan security alliance, calling it a threat and pledged to further boost North Korea's nuclear program. 29 people remain missing after a landslide hit Sichuan province on Saturday. Persistent rain and unstable terrain triggered debris flows, covering 1.2 kilometers with over 100,000 cubic meters of debris.
Well, that's the end of our program. For more, you can always visit our social media platforms. From me and the rest of the team, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, bye-bye.